People no longer bound by their non-disclosure agreements. What can you now disclose? When I was fired from Auntie Anne's in 2010, I signed a 10-year non-compete (NDA) contract, promising not to detail the baking secrets or work for another pretzel establishment. Well, that ended this year, so now I can run out and start a pretzel store, because the secret I was keeping was making pretzels literally requires 2 products, one of them being water and the other a large bag of pretzel meal, dust, powder. Quite literally anyone with $2,500 can start a pretzel stand and make perfectly fine pretzels. It's not difficult whatsoever. Well, you forgot to say what the secret browning agent is that all the pretzels get dipped into before they go on the sheet and into the oven. It's baking soda and water. Mystery solved. Also lemonade too. 4. 8. Refrigerate. You know NDAs are only good if you have the money to sue? Worked with a company that didn't pay me, so I told them their NDA didn't apply. They threatened to sue. My response: you can't even afford to pay me, you sure as hell can't afford to sue. They also don't extend to keeping you from reporting illegal activity to the justice system. Some places may try to make people believe that and may even try to imply it in the NDA, but it has no legal standing. Doesn't illegal content and legal contracts immediately void the entire contract? I was a contractor for NASA. I still fully support the agency, but I was extremely bugged when I learned that each separate NASA center, for example, JPL, Kennedy, Ames, Goddard, hides many of its inventions and breakthroughs from the other centers so that when HQ is ready to assign a big mission, and a lot of dollars, to one center, they have a better chance to compete over the others. Look what we invented. Ames can't do this over there. Give us the next moon orbiter. The downside is that there is a ton of reinvention and duplicated efforts going on. Sometimes years of work go down the drain when another center does the same thing faster. My perspective was, you all work for NASA. Share knowledge, collaborate. I was frequently ordered to tone down anything revealing when speaking to other centers. That's not at all different from how the big national labs used to work. The rivalry between Lawrence Livermore and Los Alamos is almost legendary. Supposedly they got better about sharing, but it wouldn't shock me if they were still up to the same hijinks. Not just true for NASA, true for many government agencies. The issue is that money is zero sum, and if one program is getting money, it is getting cut from another program. So everyone is fighting to get their share and avoid having to make staffing cuts. Fixing this would probably require a fundamental change in the executive branch as well as the appropriations process. We would have to move from a leadership system in which you have new political appointees coming in every few years who aren't familiar with the programs to permanent leadership who are focused on making all the different sub-agency departments work synergistically. Appropriations would have to change to have predictable funding levels for each program for several years. My graphic designer best friend won my town's Design the Centennial logo contest, despite having never set foot in the town. I worked for the radio station, and just did an interview with one of the organizers, where he lamented that there weren't very many entries. So I called my friend and said, "Want in on this?" He said, sure, as he lived on the other side of the country at the time. I spent the next day texting him photos of the town for inspiration. Anyway, when he won and they found out he was a professional graphic designer who lived on the other side of the country, they made him and me sign NDAs, because the town was afraid people would think they brought in a ringer. How did they make you? They threatened to withhold the prize and you threatened to tell the public, which would be way worse PR-wise than what they alone wanted the NDA for. Presumably if they didn't sign the NDA, they wouldn't have picked the design. Scandal of the century. I used to do data analysis of revenue management for some big companies. Many companies have no clue about their data or their revenue streams. I'm talking several $1 million of revenue disappearing in the pipeline and no one knowing what happened with it, or even caring really. There were multiple times I had to inform clients that we had huge gaps in their costs and we needed to find the missing numbers somewhere in order to make our final reports correct, and was met with the, paraphrased, reply, "Just sprinkle the missing costs over the existing one. We just want the final total to be correct." All the companies cared about if the amount of money they have at the end of the year is higher than at the beginning, and anything that happens in between is inconsequential. I objected at first to my bosses, saying that what we were doing was incorrect, but they said to just do as the client said. In the end, I got disillusioned, and whenever our clients came with requests that made no mathematical or logical sense, I just execute as requested and let their analysts figure out later that the analysis they paid 6 figures for was basically nonsense. I didn't care, because I had documentation of all their requests and my objections, which were thoroughly ignored. I had a few cases where clients came back disgruntled several months down the line after some in-house analysts had done a deep dive of their data and came up with objections that I had pointed out months before. I'd usually dig up the relevant emails and clear my name. My choice of action was to tell them to pound sand, but my bosses always bent over backwards for clients, so we'd have to do the cleanup I anticipated. In the end, I learned most of our economy is held together by duct tape and wishful thinking. At most 10% of people working at big companies are competent and carry the bulk of the work, and rarely are the competent ones the ones in charge. Same in some big insurance company. Several millions of euros that are asked to be ignored when it comes to analysis and reporting. This should be higher up the list. It's scary how incompetent people just guffaw their way into positions of power and really have no idea how to run a business. I mean, to be fair, I'm talking some really big companies here. One of our clients was Coca-Cola, for example. I'm not afraid to mention them as they were one of the few clients that really had their it together. Their data was usually pretty on point and they were extremely thorough. These big name companies make bank, but many of them had absolutely no clue where that bank was coming from. The key account managers just cared that their totals were good. Individual revenue streams didn't matter as long as in the end, the sum total was fine. Well, this is already public knowledge, and they forgot to have me sign an NDA anyway, but Savannah College of Art and Design's Ombudsman Sophia Bagnoli, the independent person who's supposed to represent students in cases of unfair treatment by the school, married one of the school's vice presidents and is now Sophia Leto. It's definitely a conflict of interest, but she's still serving as independent ombudsman, and currently refusing to help students get any kind of refund now that all their classes are online and they don't have access to the expensive equipment their expensive tuition is supposed to be paying for. I may be remembering incorrectly, but doesn't SCAD have a lot of issues with student health, including abnormal attempted suicide rates with students? Wouldn't that fall under unfair treatment by the school? This seems really problematic. I think I'm finally ready to let the world know my secret. If you've ever used VeriSite, the loading spinners you see when the report loads and waiting for anything, people kept complaining that reports were coming back too fast. So it must not be working right. It doesn't take long to complete a few hundred Google searches simultaneously, so the loading spinner just makes you wait a few seconds longer so it feels like more is happening. So glad to finally get that off my chest. Bonus fact, edit. I also added applying phlebotinum, reticulating splines, and looking for cat memes as random loading messages, but they wouldn't let me do harassing at Ted Cruz on Twitter. This is a good one. Now we just need an elevator engineer to admit that the close door button doesn't actually do anything. To be blackballed by big elevator? You'll never see that. This reminded me of adding an egg to instant pancakes, cakes, brownies, etc. Not actually necessary. When Betty Crocker's instant baked goods brand first went on the market, her sales were poor. The team surveyed people and they were suspicious of baking from a powder. Adding the egg makes people feel that they're actually contributing to a baking process. As a lawyer, I've viewed a lot of these in tort settlements. The most common use of the NDA is to keep the award amount quiet so everyone won't sue the company, hoping to get that sweet settlement money. SMH. As a lawyer who represents plaintiffs that sign these settlements, I say over and over, do not go post this on Facebook. Don't tell your friends. Just say that it's resolved and you were happy with the outcome. Inevitably a week later I'll get an email from defense counsel with my client's Facebook link on some group. We did it, guys. Just got $XXXXXX. I like to add your friends and family will all start asking you for money. People will bring up old debts you owe them that you won't remember if they're real or not. Just keep it to yourself or you're going to hate it. This seems to work better than the threat of legal consequences for breaking an NDA. My dad brings up old debt any chance he gets. All through high school up to now. Your sister owes me money for my car they sold. Ask her. Your brother owes me money from when I paid for his college. Ask him. Is he trying to pass his debts off to others who owe him money? I had a friend who did that in high school. I'd lend him $20. He'd tell me to go get it from someone else who owes him money. That's not how it works, bro. Funny story. Moments after I was unceremoniously fired because my tech skills were found to be insufficient, the bosses who fired me demanded to know the whereabouts of a hugely important computer file I had worked on. I refused to help them. I even cited the exact language of the NDA I was compelled to sign. I am prohibited from disclosing details of my employment with anyone, including past and current employees of the company. I expounded, adding, so ask someone who works here, because I don't. It was a great freak you moment that I still cherish 5 years later, but now I think I can disclose the truth. I only hid behind the NDA language because I had no clue where to find their damn computer file or even where to look. I suck with computers. Fired because my tech skills were found to be insufficient. I suck with computers. This checks out. How do you even get in this situation, LMAO? We need someone to manage these financial portfolios. You're a good CPA, so we're hiring you. Thank you. I can't wait to get started. Here's the F-site database we use and here is the online portal we use to communicate with clients. Freaking what? Thanks, guys. I'm great at Portal. I had no idea it even had an online mode.